So, part of being a human being is to give and take. Naturally, we must give and take. Even we give and take with people, with the environment, with nature, and even the elements. So consider water. We have a need to take water. We use it to drink, we use it to wash, we use it to cook. Think of air. So we must take air to breathe, to live, isn't it? So we take air in to give nourishment to our body, and then we give air out back to the environment. We're going to talk tonight about particular aspects of giving and taking. So I want you to consider what it is that we give and take. Now, we give and take material. So when we think about material things that we give and take, it may be in exchange for money, for example. It may be something that I give out of the goodness of my heart. But material things are not the only aspects that we give and take. We also give and take intangible aspects. So what are they? And I'm going to give them a title or two titles, and I hope these are okay. Tell me if they're not. I'm going to talk about giving and taking the good stuff and giving and taking the bad stuff. Does that sound okay? Easy to understand. But we'll define what the good stuff and the bad stuff is. So when we're talking about giving and taking of these intangibles with the headings of good stuff and bad stuff, we'll explore. So, for example, if I consider giving some of the good stuff, it may be that I give kindness to others. It may be that I give my time. And when I'm giving the good stuff will always be things that are good for me and good for other people. It may be that I'm giving happiness, giving peace, giving love, giving of my wonderful virtues, the best parts of me, which is a wonderful thing to do. This aspect of giving and taking has to, and we do give and take the bad stuff. And we can talk about the bad stuff, and we will explore what it is. But in essence, if we were to drill down what all of this bad stuff ends up to be, we could say that this giving and taking of the bad stuff is sorrow and results in sorrow. Does that make sense? As an end result. So good stuff and bad stuff. It'd be nice to give and take the good stuff all the time. But sometimes our habit has been to develop habits of taking sorrow or giving sorrow. Sometimes not even intentionally, sometimes not even consciously, but still it exists. So, when we're talking about giving, an aspect of giving that's most important is our intention and our motive. So an example is if I have a friend, someone I love very much, and from my heart I want to give this person a gift, and so I buy them flowers. And I'm giving this gift with the love of my heart, with good intent. So how will my friend feel when they receive these flowers? They'll probably feel pretty good, yes? Now imagine the same action, that I purchase a bunch of flowers to give to the same friend, but I'm giving them because I want something. I want this person to babysit for me. And so it's a little bit of a bribe, a little bit of softening them up. And my friend might not know that, but when they find out, will they be as happy about the gift they've received? Probably not. And now imagine a third scenario where I buy a bunch of flowers for my friend who I've hurt, and the flowers are to ask for forgiveness, to say, I'm sorry. So a completely different intent. And my friend's reaction could be a number of things. They may not be ready to forgive me, or they may have a merciful heart and they may forgive me. But you can see where an action can come from different motive. So it's important to consider my motive when I'm performing action. And it's also important to know that everybody has a role and a journey, and sometimes some people's roles can seem to us a little bit difficult to accept. So we're going to do an exercise now. Just before we do this, I'm going to tell you a couple of secrets. And one of these secrets is about, talking about material and intangible aspects. So if I give of material objects, my stock will decrease. I'll give you an example. So imagine I'm the owner of a candle shop and I have a shop full of candles. And today I've decided that I'm going to give my candles away for free. So would you come to my shop? You probably would. Free candles, very nice. But I, as the shopkeeper, have decided that I'm not going to restock. I'm just going to give these candles out. What's going to happen to my stock of candles? Eventually, my stock's going to run down, it's going to deplete, and it might even run out. I'll have no candles left. And this is what happens with material things, that as we give them out, they deplete. But with the intangibles, it's a different matter. So what happens if I give the good stuff or the bad stuff, a different principle applies. So the more I give, the more I have. So an example, if I give love, if I give of my heart, will I have less love in my heart? I won't. In fact, what happens is more. It's like when I use it and it increases. It's like exercising a muscle, that it becomes stronger the more I use it. But the same principle holds true for the bad stuff with these intangibles. So if I'm giving sorrow, it's not that I'm giving away my sorrow, I'm just spreading it. It's like an infection. So it's not that my sorrow will decrease. So to understand that the more we give of these intangibles, that they do increase. Another thing to know here is, when we're looking at other people, they may want to give us sorrow. Can we control them? We can't. We can't control other people, but we do have a choice on what we take. So there will be those who want, for whatever reason, to give us sorrow. Do I need to take it? Often the habit will be that we will take it, but we don't have to. It is a choice, so there are things to consider. Another thing to look at is the environment. So, so often, and I think particularly these days as life has become busier and hectic, and everybody's trying to fit more and more into their day, that we long for a bit of peace and quiet, isn't it? And often we'll say, if only my workplace was more peaceful, if only it was more peaceful at home, if only my environment was more peaceful. And a secret here is that actually that lies with us. And I'll explain. So if I want more peace in my environment, is to understand that as an energetic being, I create energy. If I bring peace into myself, that energy doesn't stay within me. That energy flows. And we know this. We know this. We feel the vibration from people, good and bad, isn't it? It's like when you walk in a room where two people have just had a fight and there's nothing being said, but you can, the term, you can cut the air with a knife. So we know this, and this is, as energetic beings, we exude energy, we exude vibrations. So if I want my environment to be peaceful, the first thing to do is give myself the gift of peace. Allow peace to come to me. It's a beautiful gift to give myself. Become peaceful, become quiet, become still. What will happen? Those peaceful vibrations, once I've become peaceful, those peaceful vibrations will start to flow, and they'll start to flow out from me into my environment, and they'll be touching those who are in my orbit, those around me. Now, the more I do it, the more powerful those vibrations will become. And they'll have the effect of touching those around me. It's subtle, but it definitely happens. So there's an influence being exerted over those around me, and hopefully over time that influence will have a build-up. And so those around me will become more peaceful. So if I want a peaceful environment, all I've got to do is take peace into myself and allow that energy to flow out from me, and it will impact on my environment, on those around me. Does it make sense? Yeah. Okay. Something to think about, something to practice. And if it's not working, if I think, despite my best efforts, they don't seem to be getting any more peaceful, is to understand that the more we practice this, the stronger we become. It is like flexing this muscle and working it out. So the more I bring peace into myself, the more powerful that peace is going to become, and the more influence it will have. So we really can be the masters of ourselves and the masters of our world with this sort of method. But we're going to do a little exercise now. So what I'd like you to do is all to close your eyes and to sit very comfortably. And I'd like you to consider yourself as a being of love, a being that's so full of love that love is flowing through, love is flowing out of the self. Rays of love are emerging from the self. Powerful rays of love. And I think about a loved one, someone who's very special to me, someone I care deeply for. And I bring that one in front of my mind's eye. And with this loved one, special one in front of me, I shower rays of love on that person. Powerful rays of love. And now I consider an acquaintance, someone I know but not too well, maybe a neighbour, maybe someone I work with. And I bring that one in front of my mind's eye. And again, I shower rays of love on that one. Powerful rays of love. And now I consider someone who I don't like, someone who may have hurt me or hurt someone dear to me, someone who's brought me some sorrow. And I bring that one in front of me, in front of my mind's eye, and send them rays of love. And keeping that person, the one who may have hurt me, in front of me, we now turn the exercise around. And that one is sending me rays of love. Rays of love are coming from this person towards me. Now I move to the acquaintance. They too come in front of me, and they now are sending rays of love to me. And finally we come back to my loved one, the one I care for, bring them in front and allow them to send powerful rays of love to me. And when I'm ready, I'll now return my attention to the room. So it's a bit of an interesting exercise, this one, isn't it? Very easy to give love to those that we care about, those that we love, those that are close to our hearts. And even with acquaintances, it's not too difficult. But what's it like with the person who I dislike or that person that's hurt me? Is it so easy to give love? Tends to be a bit more difficult, tends to be more difficult. And what about the taking love? What's it like to take love from that person who's hurt me? It almost feels like, why would I? It's going to be wrapped up with some more hurt. And it's to understand, that even those that have hurt me, we know of ourselves that we're not static beings, that we can change and grow and evolve when we do. And so to understand that of others as well, that there may be someone who has hurt me, and we all have those people, but to understand that on their journey, they're capable of change too. So often we'll tar them with that brush and say, well, they're like that and they'll always be like that. And so that forms my opinion of that person. But to understand that they are capable of change as I am, and so opening the door to that possibility that that person can change and that person can be a loving human being the same as I am. Something to consider. And practice too, because, it's easy to give and take love from those that we care for. But it becomes more of an exercise or more of a challenge to do it with those who press our buttons. But no less an important exercise. In fact, even more so, because, to understand that soul who may have hurt me, does anybody do hurtful things when they're in a really good place? Will somebody hurt me if they're feeling great? They don't. And that's a great secret to understand, that when somebody does something very hurtful to me, is to know that that person must be in a terrible place to be doing what they're doing. Why would you do that if you're in a great place? You wouldn't. So to have that sort of an understanding can shift our vision on souls, and it gives us the ability to perhaps start having a little bit of compassion, and a little bit of understanding that that one is really in a bad place, and maybe I can send them some of these good vibrations, perhaps to help. So something to think about. So why do we give sorrow? Why do we give sorrow? It doesn't seem to make any sense. Why would we do it? There's lots of reasons, and I've got a list here, but I'm sure you could probably add to it. But one of the reasons that we give sorrow is punishment. Somebody's hurt us and it's payback. But often we won't like to admit that of ourselves, that I'm perhaps at that level, that's the same level as the one who's hurt me. So we won't do it in an overt manner. We'll do it in a subtle way. Have you heard this term, the silent treatment? The silent treatment. Very effective punishment for someone who's hurt me, isn't it? If you've been the victim of the silent treatment, what does that feel like? It doesn't feel very good. So punishment is a way that we can give sorrow. But as I say, it's not something that we necessarily want to come right out and do, so often we'll do it in a subtle manner. Another reason that we'll give sorrow is jealousy, that somebody has something or is something or does something that I'd like to have or be or do. And so it might be that I'll try to white ant them or undermine them. Again, it can be very subtle. One aspect of giving sorrow that's really, I think, we've seen the awful results of it in the world today is fear. And fear can be things like fear of difference, not understanding. So fear of a different culture, for example. And we see the result of that, and we're seeing it all over the world now in war. So a terrible price to pay for fear. So sorrow comes in many forms. What about the time when I'm hurting and I'm feeling really rotten? So I think, well, I'll share the load. I'll give you a bit of my sorrow and it'll lighten the load for me. Does it work? It doesn't work. You know, we think that, but actually it doesn't. It doesn't. If I give that sorrow to anyone else, it will not lighten my load. But another thing that we'll do is when I'm upset or I'm feeling sick, perhaps the boss just yelled at me, or I'm having a rotten day, I've got a cold and I'm feeling miserable. So in either case, I might be feeling a bit sorry for myself, feeling a bit miserable, and you're the unfortunate soul, the next one that comes in front of me, and you cop it. What did I do? But you've just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I'm giving you sorrow. Maybe not fully intending to do so, but you just happen to be there and you cop it. And with that can also come another form of sorrow that we give is carelessness. And I think this is one that's more and more prevalent because with the busyness of our lives today, that we're trying to pack so much into our lives, careers, activities, expectations that everybody else has on us. Would you agree? That life is busier now than it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even 2 years ago. I think it's speeding up, and there's more and more that we're trying to pack into a day, more and more expectations on us to be able to do that. And so with that, something's got to give. You know, when we're trying to cram everything into this day, something's got to give. And sometimes it'll be that I'll become careless. And sometimes that carelessness will be towards people I care about. So, for example, imagine you've had some big project on at work that's consumed all of your energy and your thinking time, and you look at the calendar and you think, oh no, I've forgotten my mum's birthday. Imagine how mum would feel. I've forgotten her birthday. Not good, not good. And it's not that I had any malicious intent to do that, but just with the busyness and the stuff that I'm caught up with, it's just slipped away. It's slipped my mind. So with that carelessness, or with the, being upset, being sick, and that person happens to come in front of me, with all of these aspects of giving sorrow, it's not that there's malicious intent there, is it? There's no malicious intent. But that doesn't mean that I am not responsible. So I still have a responsibility for that sorrow I've given. And there are things to consider. Because even when we might not be meaning to give it, and when we do, our responsibility is not diminished. So that's perhaps not malicious sorrow, but the next one can be, and that's gossip. And gossip's a surefire way to give sorrow. And often, people will say, oh, that's not gossip. That's just friendly talk. But really, gossip is gossip. And what do we do when we gossip? We're focusing on weaknesses of other people. Gossip isn't about focusing on good points. It's about focusing on weaknesses. Why do we do it? We do it because it makes me feel better about myself in an elongated way. Now, I heard an interesting statistic about gossip. So, coffee shops are so popular. Everyone goes to coffee shops. The statistic is that within the first 3 to 8 minutes of meeting my friends at the coffee shop, gossip will start. 3 minutes. So that's frightening, isn't it? So maybe they should be called gossip shops. But the thing about gossip is it is focusing on weaknesses. And in that focusing on weaknesses, I might be telling someone something they don't know. It's the form of gossip. Or they're telling me something I don't know about an individual that's a weakness, or, something that is not good about that person. So what does that have the effect of doing? It's a spread of negativity. It's a spread of negativity into the atmosphere, into the environment, into the hearts of other people. So there's no good result from gossip. And another final way, and we could go on with this list for a long time, I'm sure, but we'll finish it, is to take advantage. So it may be that I've got a friend who's very good-hearted, and out of their goodness of their heart, they may help me. They may say, well, let me help you with a particular task. And they may do that very effectively. So I think, great, this is going to make my life easier. I'm going to encourage them to do more and more of that, to take advantage of their good nature. And we all know people who may take advantage of someone's good nature. Eventually it'll bring sorrow. Sometimes it'll start off feeling good, but sooner or later that person's going to be thinking, enough's enough here. So it's another way of giving sorrow. There's many. Now, when we're talking sorrow and the good stuff, we can talk about it in cycles. And everything goes in cycles. Day and night, seasons, years go in cycles. So when we're talking about the good stuff and the bad stuff, also in cycles. So for example, I do an act of kindness to a friend. Good or bad? Good? Yeah. It's starting a positive cycle. That person is more likely, because of that act of kindness, to do something kind for the next person, would you think? that will be the tendency. And certainly when they're coming back around to me, hopefully they're going to do something kind back to me. So that's a positive cycle, very good. But we don't always have a positive cycle. Sometimes they start with negativity. So creating a cycle, if I create a negative cycle may be created where, for example, somebody hurts me, somebody does something hurtful to me. So we've got another starting point. That person's performed a hurtful act. What sort of cycle will that be starting? A negative cycle. So this person's done something hurtful to me, and I now have an opportunity to decide what I'm going to do next. Am I going to sustain this cycle of negativity, or am I going to break it? If I decide, or if my response to this person hurting me is to retaliate, is to want to hurt them back, or to react, and that might be my boss that's hurt me, and the reaction might be I'm doing something hurtful to the next person who comes in front of me. So if I do that, I'm actually sustaining the cycle of negativity, isn't it? And so this cycle of negativity, and then if that next unfortunate person that's come in front of me, they're going to be thinking, well, what did I do? And so you can see how this can flow on and continue and spiral. But I do have a choice. So if this person does something hurtful to me, when it comes to my opportunity to do what I'm going to do, I can stop and I can consider my options. I can choose to retaliate, react, or I can choose something better. I can choose to break the negative cycle. So how to do that? Breaking the negative cycle sometimes will be awareness that I don't want to continue this cycle of negativity, that I'd like to change it to something more positive. And there'll be many different ways I might do that. But one effective way, I think, is sometimes just to be quiet. Because, you know, in the face of hurt, often we'll be very quick to react and speak out or do something that we probably regret, you know. So just to take a moment and become introspective, to go inside and just stop. What do I want here? Do I want to sustain the cycle of negativity that's been created, or do I want to break it? And if I want to break it, I'll be thinking a little bit differently. What do I do moving forward? It might be that this person that's hurt me is in a bad place. And when I understand that to do what they've done, they can't be in a good place, I have got an opportunity for compassion, which is very powerful. It may be that I don't feel in a fit state to really do anything too much because I might be a bit shaken up at this point because it's been hurtful what's happened to me. So perhaps a wise course of action may be just to be quiet, just to reflect, and just to work on sending some good wishes out, rather than trusting myself to do anything when I might be a bit shaky. Power of good wishes is, you know, it can't be measured really. So the power of good wishes is coming from this energetic me and going out into the atmosphere as a subtle vibration. So do I want to, so cycles will always be created and continually are being created, good and bad. Do I want to create good cycles? Of course we do. But bad stuff happens. So when a bad cycle is created, do I want to sustain it or do I want to break it? Good to break it. Good to turn it into a positive cycle. And it's possible. We can do it. So we've talked about how to give sorrow. So do you think it's about time we might talk about the good stuff? I think it is. So how do I give the good stuff? And what is the good stuff? So, you know, I think one of the first things to consider when I'm talking about giving the good stuff is coming from my heart. So when I give from my heart, is not to have any expectation of a return. Because as soon as I put an expectation on what I'm giving, it's like I'm setting myself up for sorrow. But to give generously and to give of myself, it might be my time, might be the thing I'm giving, you know. Um, so just to give of myself without expecting anything back is a true act of generosity. Um, to give what I've got in abundance. So, and it becomes easy. If I'm a very naturally happy person, it's really easy to give happiness, isn't it? So, and I don't mean to give happiness to others at my own expense, not that, but to be happy first, to be, if I have an abundance of happiness or any other quality in myself, if I'm particularly a loving person or I have a quality that is perhaps kindness that really exists within me in abundance, then that's very easy. It's almost like I'm overflowing and naturally it flows out to other people, which is easy way to give the good stuff. But also there can be an opportunity and it can be that there's something that I might want to develop in myself. And I'll give you an example. A little while ago, I did a little project on myself, and I'm not saying I was a really unkind person, but I could see that there was opportunities that existed to become more kind, and people who I could be kinder to. And so I thought, right, I'm going to do an experiment, and I did. And so, with this virtue in mind, kindness as my focus, I looked for opportunities to practice being kind. And didn't tell anyone, I just did it and reflected on myself. And what happened, it was interesting because what I've started to find was at first it was like, learning to ride a bike. Very consciously, I was trying to seek out opportunities to do this. But very quickly, what was happening, the opportunities were just flowing and it started to flow very naturally. The muscle was getting exercised and becoming stronger. And very quickly, it became quite natural. And there was an abundance of kindness too, where I think before there was work to be done. So very quickly it became I had kindness in abundance, which was great, fabulous. That's what I'd set out to do, and everybody wins. Nobody lost in that process. So if there's something I want to work on for myself, I can. Um, this next one's so important, and really, we can't give the good stuff without it. And it's to know myself, to recognize myself, to have total self respect for me, self love, self honor, and to see myself as a worthy soul. If I don't have that vision on myself, there's no way I can give out effectively. So, really, if I'm talking about, for example, as the exercise we did of giving love, um, give love to me first. Love myself for all the potential that I have. Love myself for everything that exists, that's possible to exist within me, but also accept the habits that I've developed that may not be so good over time. Accept that they're there. And with that acceptance, I'm able to work on improving them. But self love, there's nothing selfish about self love. Self love gives me an opportunity to give love to others effectively. So it's an absolute necessity. And when I'm coming from that place, it gives me the opportunity to see the worth of others. So, I'll tell you a story. It's not a very nice one either. I was talking to a friend of mine, not even in Victoria, a long way away, and it's probably a good thing, a couple of weeks ago. And this person, very skilled person, has had to go into a job that's way below his capability. And so he's working in a job out of necessity that's way below his skill level. And he said, you know what? He said, I'm working with these people who I feel I'm better than them. And he said, we'll sit around the meeting table and I think to myself at this meeting table, I'm better than everyone else here. And he said, but they don't know because I don't say it out loud. Now, what do you think? Do you think they know? I'm sure they know. I'm sure they get that vibration that this person thinks they're superior. So yeah, I think it's a very sad story. So, with the, when we hear something like that, and to know that it's not a useful way to be viewing people like that. Everyone, if I'm a worthy soul, if I'm worth love, and lovable, and I have potential, uncapped and unlimited potential, so does everyone else. And so to have vision on others, looking for the best in them rather than looking for the weaknesses. And you know what? Here's a secret, that what I see in others is actually a reflection of what's in me. So if I start looking for the good stuff, I'm strengthening the good stuff within myself. If I'm focusing on the bad stuff, I'm emerging the bad stuff within me. So that's a very good reason in itself to see the worth in others. And when I'm giving this good stuff and I'm seeing the worth in others, I'm creating an environment for growth for both of us, for growth for me, for growth for them. So it has to be a good thing. The world's can be a very sad place, a very frightening place. There's loads happening in the world that we wish wasn't happening, with different activity, natural calamities and accidents and terrorism. There's some awful things happening out there. And, if we want, we can watch it all day long. Turn the TV and news channel on and we can watch sorrow all day long. What happens when we do that is we're actually feeding into the sorrow of those situations. So souls who are in the midst of an awful situation, maybe feeling hopeless and despairing and in desperate need. So we actually can be very effective in giving good stuff at a distance to these souls by sending rays of hope, rays of peace, rays of good feeling to desperate and hopeless souls to make a difference. If we take on the sorrow and get caught up in the sorrow of the situation, we're actually come back to the cycle. We're helping to sustain that cycle of negativity. So a very good reason not to do it. And sometimes I think it doesn't hurt to turn that TV off, when they're showing, like this morning with the plane accident, they're showing again and again this plane accident and the sorrow. So better to send rays of hope to souls. We're not going to go into depth about this tonight, but there's a thing called karma. And karma is about cause and effect. So what I give out, I get back. So that in itself is a very good reason to give out the good stuff, would you think? Yes, absolutely. And look, just finally on giving this good stuff is to know that everything I give out, go back to our exercise of being a peaceful soul and that vibration exuding through me, going out into those in my orbit. If I want the world, if I want my community, if I want those in my orbit, if I want the whole world to be a better place for me to live in, it absolutely starts with me. So to give myself the gift of the good stuff and then allow that to go out to others, I'm creating an environment to improve the whole world. So we're going to have a meditation, and I'm going to give you something to think about to take with you tonight. And I'll say it just before the meditation, and I might repeat after. So a reflection question, and it is, what abundant good stuff do I have that I can share with others? What do I have in abundance that I can share with others? Something to reflect on, something to think about, something to do. Does it sound okay? All right. So we'll have some meditation. So get comfortable. So with meditation, the meditation that we practice here, we work to practice with our eyes open. And the reason for open-eyed meditation is for alertness. What tends to happen when we close our eyes, and particularly if we're a bit tired, often this time of night, can be that we fall asleep. But having said that, if you want to close your eyes for meditation, that's absolutely fine. It's something to practice. And quite frankly, I learned originally when I learned my first learning of meditation was closed-eyed meditation. It took some time to develop the new habit. So do what feels right for now, but just know that it's something that we can practice and work on. Okay. And with the point of light, good point, with the point of light, the idea with the point of light is to have a focal point. So in having this focal point is to be able to gently rest my eyes, not to stare as make my eyes hurt, but just as a focal point. And in focusing my vision, I'm focusing my thoughts as well. Sure, yeah, whatever feels comfortable. I, for example, I don't like to focus on a candle because they flicker, and I find that really distracting. So I don't do that. Oh, we need an electrician. All right. So getting comfortable and whatever feels right is right. It's a good idea in meditation, I think, to check over the body and just check for any areas of tension and tightness. And if I find any areas of pain or tension or tightness, just to send a gentle white light and allow that tension, tightness to release. And I check over my body. I may wish to uncross all of my body, my arms and legs, so I'm sitting comfortably, but no part of my body is pulling me, drawing attention. And I bring my focus to the tips of my toes. I feel the air on skin. I feel the energy flowing through my toes. The energy of my life force. And I concentrate on this energy and draw it upwards through my feet, my legs, drawing the energy upwards through the hips, the belly, the back, the chest, and upward to my shoulders where stress so often dwells. And I check my shoulders, allow them to be loose. Now I turn my attention to the tips of my fingers and feel the sensation of air on skin. I focus on the energy flowing through my fingers, this life force, and consciously draw this energy upward through the hands, the wrists, and the arms, to meet with the energy at the shoulders, and continuing to move up through the neck, the jaw, the facial bones and muscles, upward through the scalp, and this life force energy comes to rest at the third eye point in the center of the forehead. This life energy that is me, concentrated, essenceful, in the center of my forehead. And I picture myself as a being of energy. And I can see this energy as light, soft, white light, soft yet powerful light. I focus on myself as this point of living light. And as I focus, I look within myself. To see what's inside this light. And as I look inside, a feeling of stillness washes over me. It's so still in here. And I notice the silence, internal silence. Stillness, silence. It feels very comfortable to be here. It feels very right to be here within myself. I start to experience a feeling of profound peace in this silent and still place. Here, I'm in the absolute present moment. Nothing else exists at this time. Just me in my internal place of peace. And from this place, I can look out look outwards. And as I do, I start to experience my other internal qualities that are deeply innate within me. I experience myself to be a being of love. This love is for the self. This love is for humanity. This love has no boundaries. I feel contented here, an experience of joy. Happiness is the result of my deep contentment. I understand that this happiness is something I can hold no matter what situations may come. That I can choose not to lose my inner contentment, my inner happiness. From this deep place within, wisdom. This wisdom gives me the clarity to see situations and people, even myself,
being at peace.
To know I can learn, to know I can grow, to know I can give. To know I can provide benefit to myself, to others. And I, this being of living light, consider the lightness of myself. I'm not burdened. I'm not held down by any troubles, by any problems. I, the being of light, am light. I feel light. I feel so light that I just drift upward and I experience myself to be ascending, floating upward through the atmosphere and beyond. And I picture myself, I, this being of living light, to be far above and high above the world, looking back at my precious earth, my home, this fragile globe where I exist. where human beings exist. And I observe my world with a sense of great love. That love extends to everyone who exists in the world, and in particular, those souls who are experiencing hopelessness, despair, suffering. I, the living being of light, send my rays of love and peace and hope to these souls, to help them, to uplift them, to uplift the vibration of the whole world. And I'm confident that every time I have this awareness and attention, that each time I do, each time I consider myself as a benefactor, I, this living light, am helping my world. I'm giving the good stuff to my world. And now I descend back to my world, and my awareness of the physical presence of my body increases. I notice the environment around me, the temperature, the feel of air on my hands and my face. I draw my attention back to the room, but holding on to that inner part of me that I'm able to access whenever I wish. Om Shanti.